So let's piss off some people and possibly get this video ratioed into oblivion. It's an old question of whether or not alphabet were born that way or the product of their environments. Back in the 90s, this was a big talking point, a big issue. And over the years, I was able to say, you know what, I'm going to grant the premise that you were born this way. No control over it. Because that would not or does not affect my view on it. In the same way, I can say that I can also grant that being a pedophile, they were born that way. But I look at the outcome. This is how I view whether something should be normalized or not. You look at the outcome of mass adoption of this thing. That's what normalize means. And if the outcome is positive, then alright, normalize it. If the outcome is negative, you do not normalize it. One of the outcomes of normalizing pedophilia is increased child pregnancy. And women's bodies are not, well, not even women, girls' bodies are not fully developed and equipped to deal with the burden of childbearing. So that will be detrimental to them. Also have the mental and psychological part of it, where that's a little bit more debatable. I agree in that maybe it's a cultural thing. So maybe it won't be as damaging if the culture already says that this is a norm. So I can grant that, but the physical damage, the physical danger is still there. So because of that, I don't care if being a pedophile, if you were born this way. The outcome is negative, so it should not be supported or promoted as normal. Same thing with the alphabet business. Doesn't matter if it is the sexual version or the gender confused version. For the sexual version, if everyone became like that, then human race would simply not exist. You cannot have a bigger negative than that. If you don't want to go that far, then you can look at something like HIV. I think something like 70% of new HIV cases in the US come from alphabet, and they make up a very tiny percent of people or the population. So people weren't even that far when you call it an alphabet disease, because those numbers are staggering. And then when you look into it a bit further, it is the type of intercourse that they engage in makes you like 18 times more likely to contract it. So it makes sense now why they are so, let us say, overrepresented in that stat. So because of that, I was willing to grant the premise that this was innate, right? Can't change it, born this way. However, there have been, and I've known for quite some time now, but somehow I never connected these two together. I think because I was rooted in the idea of, okay, it doesn't matter to me whether or not they are born that way. But in the recent research, it shows that almost 20% of Gen Z thinks that they are alphabet. And that number going from I think 1% in the older generation is, as alphabet become normalized, that percentage increase and increase and increase until now, where it's all but celebrated and glorified and deified. Then it is 1 in 5, and you want to tell me that is normal? That is physically impossible for 20% of humans to be basically born sterile. That makes no. The remaining normal women, we need to have like 5 kids in order to maintain the average. But what has changed in recent time? So during the lifetime of Gen Z, the environment is what has changed. And as the environment changed and made alphabet cool and hip and something and appealing, coincidentally, there is an astronomical rise in the amount of alphabet. So look, I am now forced to rethink that stance. Like I said, it ultimately doesn't change anything, because my opposition has nothing to do with whether or not they were born that way or not. But looking at the data here, I think the only logical conclusion is alphabet has some part, it is largely impacted by environment. And so it's very funny, because in Jamaica, we have a saying, the higher monkey climb, the more him expose themselves. That is what happened here, where the more prominent and comfortable the alphabet people get, and the more they get the way, they're actually revealing the truth of the matter. In this case, it's not a matter of they're born that way. Maybe it's a very, very tiny amount born that way, but maybe even among those, they've had environmental issues. Maybe they were groomed by their parents, maybe they were sexually assaulted by relatives.